All right, quick lesson. It was pretty difficult. Playing against fish in PLO can be really hard. And what I mean by that is I had two spots come up where just people did really silly shit. And I'm thinking that cannot be a bluff. But it was. And example number one is we had a flop come. It was like 2, 6, 9 with like two clubs. And it was like bad call. I did not have the clubs, but I had the inside wrap. I had 3, 4, 5. So I'm like, well, and a backdoor flush draw. So I called there. And the turn paired the board, which was bad. I don't know. It was a 2. Yeah, 2, 6, 9. Yeah, that's what I said, right? So pair the board. That's not good. So it gets checked through. All right. There's like 15,000 in the pot now. 16,000, something like that. The river gave me my straight. It was an offsuit 3. So I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now. And the first to act, he bets into 4 other people 15,000. That's full pot. And it gets around to me, and I'm like, okay, you would think he would bet a boat on the turn. But some people like to slow play. You know, if he had like pocket 2s or pocket 10s, hit the boat on the turn, maybe he decides to slow play. Probably not. But he bets into 4 people when the straight comes in. That to me is a ridiculous suicidal bluff because you can't expect straights to fold. You can't expect trips to fold. Boats aren't folding. There might be people that slow played boats. So I folded and he flipped over missed clubs. He had absolutely nothing, which I think, like I said, on the surface is a horrible bet because most people with the straight are going to call. Now, the guy to my immediate right, he said he had trip 2s and he folded. I just think you have to realize that, okay, wait a minute. Guys that are not good at this game, if they hit a boat on the turn, unless they hit quads, it's the only thing. But when you bet in 4 other people, you just think, hey, I should be no good with my straight. But if he bet like 10 into 15, I was calling. To bet 15 into 15, I don't know. I guess lesson learned is if they do something fishy, like they didn't bet the turn, and they bet full pot on the river, he said, well, the only way I could win is if I bet. I'm like, dude, you bet into 4 people when the straight came in and a paired board. I'm like, you expect everyone to fold? Like I said, I think it's a horrendous bet, but lesson learned. Sometimes you got to look people up, and I think I should have looked them up there. I mean, I had the best hand. Only thing you can have there is quad 2s or nothing, probably. And, yeah, I don't know if he really has quad 2s there. So, you check call the flop. Anyway, another example number 2 is I had bottom 2 pair with a straight draw with a gutter. And I checked. Guy bet. Guy called. I called. He bet a small amount, too. The initial pre-flop raiser. So I didn't think he was very strong. The turn gave me the nut flush draw. He bet again, but again, bet really small, which screams of aces. If you're going to play PLO, either check or bet a fair size. When you check so small, you're just giving people a chance to catch up. It's just such bad play. He bet small, and the guy raised big. And I'm like, this to me smells like he could be doing this with he might have hit backdoor clubs along with me. He can't have nut clubs because I had nut clubs. But he could be doing this with any kind of a draw because he smells weakness. So I wasn't ready to fold at that point. So I called, and the initial better folded. The pot is now like 25,000. It's a tournament. The river was a blank. But it did bring in a straight if someone had like a wrap. And he insta-bet all in. And I had a 6 in my hand, which blocked the low straight. I had bottom 2 pair. That's all I had was bottom 2 pair. And I'm thinking here, okay, with him just calling the flop and raising the turn, the only hand that makes sense with this board is if he had like a set of queens. And he was just like on the river, I'm just going with it. But that's the only hand that makes sense. It's the only hand. He's not raising big, I don't think, with the straight draw. He's just calling the small bet. Maybe unless he had clubs with it. So I folded, and he had a bluff. I mean, when you can put someone on a really small range of hands, like the one guy, all he could have is quad twos. Like the other guy, all he could have is a set of queens. When you put someone on such a tight range, and there's a lot more bluffs than there are value hands, you got to look them up. You have to look them up. It is player dependent, but if it's an unknown, and you're like, boy, there's such a narrow range he's repping, you got to look people up. And I made the mistake. I did not run good in this tournament. Did horrible, but I also made 2 horrible folds that because I gave people too narrow a range, and I should have looked them up. I thought maybe the other guy could have had 6s full or something, but it's such a narrow range, like 10-6 deuce. All he could have was 6s full that he decided to check the turn with, which is unusual, or quad twos. That's it. That's all he could have. I don't think he's betting 15,000 into 15,000 with a straight there. Because you're only getting looked up by better, of course. I thought it was a horrible bluff to begin with, so who knows what he's thinking. He might do that with a straight. But when I have the straight there, I have to look him up. It's too narrow of a range. So lesson learned for me, and FYI for you guys, when even in PLO, when there's such a narrow range, and there's a lot of bluffs, very narrow range of value, and a lot of bluffs in their hand, you gotta look them up. So unless it's some grandma that you know never bluffs, you just gotta look them up. I think I've been playing a lot of Hold'em lately, and the Hold'em games I'm playing, nobody really bluffs ever. So I've kind of gotten used to that, and I gotta adjust myself to in these tournaments. PLO tournaments, especially for a $200 buy-in, of course people are bluffing to death. So I should have just made some horrible folds. So hopefully that was helpful to y'all. Talk to y'all later.